Hey, Patrick, how you doing, bud?
Not too bad at all, buddy. So we have a story from your neck of the woods, don't we?
Yes, CBS reporter named Adam Yamaguchi covered some of the hospice things that Nick Shirley's been covering, and we're going to expand it out a little bit. So this episode is going to be from California to Mississippi, the fraud in the United States. It's not great. So
Yeah, it seems to be a massive issue over there, not just in the blue states, but seems to be all over the United States.
right,
Medicare fraud, hospice fraud, childcare fraud. It seems to be an awful lot of
right. We were
breakdown
watching
in checks and
something.
balances.
Right, we were watching something yesterday, and the fraud in California is between 250 and 430 billion. That's pretty horrible. I think we're at about 68 billion in overspending right now, which is strange because the California budget isn't allowed to pass unless it balances. So I don't know how that's working. A lot of laws that they tried to pass didn't get done either because they didn't have the money for research and stuff. So
No. And it's crazy to see the amount of money that's been wasted, not just in blue states, but all across the United States, and fraud alone is unbelievable. It seems to be an awful breakdown in checks and balances.
Right. So we have a video for this one, and for the story for Mississippi, we have some stuff there as well. When we bring that up, we'll talk about what's going on there. The federal government wants their money back. It's not great. Not great for Mississippi. Yeah. But we'll start with this California thing, and we'll look at all those things that Nick Shirley and Adam Yamaguchi were looking at, and we'll have things to say. I'm pretty sure that's why we're here.
Oh, yeah.
I was terrified.
It's the taxpayer-funded system that's supposed to get you through your final days.
I didn't feel protected. I didn't feel safe.
Hospice care to help those who are dying and their families.
They said you're in hospice, and I said, what? What are you talking about? Do I look like I'm in hospice? She goes, no.
So part of this process is that they steal identification numbers, social security numbers. There are Medicare and Medicaid numbers that you're assigned. So they will just say that they have you in hospice, and hospice is your final days, like they said, in a bed, in your house, around your family. You know, the outlook isn't good. It's cancer. You're going to go, right? So they're putting people in hospice care, and then they're not actually putting them in actual care facilities because they've stolen the numbers, right? And then they end up doing hospice for 4, 5, 6 months when a hospice situation normally resolves itself in quite an unfortunate way, much more quickly than that in general.
Yeah. But it's crazy because over here, what they're doing now with our medical card system is they're going to make it a photographic ID than just a card with a number. So they're bringing that in, I think, is it next year? I was reading a headline today about next year. They're going to make it a photographic ID, like any other normal ID.
I wonder if our voter ID is going to be photographed too.
It would make sense.
It would make sense. Yeah, I can look at your face, and is that you or not you? Yeah, seems to make a lot of sense. And maybe people who are over 100 years old probably aren't voting. Or maybe they're not voting.
Yeah, I've seen that bill going through. It is straight because we need photographic ID over here for pretty much most government interactions in some way.
Do you have a voter ID, or do they just use your equivalent of a driver's license, or what do they use?
To use when you go to vote, you bring a state identification with you, which is usually your PPS card, your tax card, or you bring your license or your passport or some form of photographic ID.
There you go. So they just want to make sure that actual citizens are voting in Ireland?
Non-citizens can vote in council elections to a limited degree. They have to be under international protection in some way.
Oh, okay. So certain kind of asylum seekers are allowed that opportunity.
No, in local elections, which are county councils, not for TTs or MPs or senators.
Got it.
Just for local. Yeah.
Let's see what Mr. Yamaguchi's got here.
CBS News, do you mind opening the door?
A CBS News investigation found it is ripe for fraud, especially in California.
Yep, you can't throw a rock without hitting a hospice.
Hundreds of red-flagged providers vanishing overnight.
Well, there's no hospice there.
Companies accused of overbilling.
How does that make you feel?
Real patients being denied care.
Really sad, because I talk to them every day. I'm sorry.
Costing hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars.
You can't explain that. There's no explaining that.
What's being done about it?
Is my government doing anything to protect my taxpayer dollars?
So the amount of hospice in the state of California, especially in LA County, and LA County is a special case. So the population of the state of California is about 40 million, and 12 to
Right.
13 million of those people live in LA County, right?
Right.
So that's roughly 1/30th of the population of the country. Like that is a very
Of the
dense.
state, yeah.
No, of the country.
Oh yeah, I live in
12 to
California. But what
13
I'm
million
saying-
people is 1 in 30 people in the United States.
What
Yeah.
I'm saying is, but is there any checks and balances here? That's what I was just wondering.
Well, Mr. Yamaguchi is going to find out what's going on with that, and we'll see if the checks and balances are there and how they missed.
Because surely a reporter like this, just driving around, if he can spot the fraud quite easily, surely the state bodies can spot the fraud in some
Yeah.
shape or form.
Yeah, my idiot cousin could see it. You know what I was like?
Yes.
Yeah. Old Johnny
It
could
does not
look back and go, "Hey, there's not
There's not 40 patients inside that office getting hospice care.
probably
Common
not."
sense would tell you that.
Right. Well, but a lot of the hospice care is done in home too, right? So they
Yes.
might have a managing section where they send the equipment out and all that stuff, and then
But
recover
I'm
the
usually
equipment.
usually I'm a great believer. It smells like BS. Usually is BS when it comes to a lot of
What
these
if it walks like a
medical
duck?
companies.
Might be a
Usually it's
duck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but if you understand that roughly 1 in 30 people in the United States live in LA County, right? That
Mhm.
means that they would have roughly 3% of the hospice care in the country, which would be
Right.
a lot of hospice, right? But not 89 at one location or over 60 at another location, right?
Yes.
And both Mr. Yamaguchi and Mr. Shirley have found that they are billing insane amounts of money over timeframes that are unrealistic, right? They just send in the number, and the state of California is like, "Oh, you do hospice. Here's your check." And you don't have to have any kind of special license to manage a hospice. Like, no special licensing is needed.
I was about to ask that because I know if you set up a health facility over here in my country, you have to go through a mountain of paperwork with the HSE, the local council, and so on. It would take you at least nearly 6 or 7 months just to process all the forms you would need to set up a healthcare facility.
To get it off the ground, right? But I
Yeah.
don't know why it isn't considered that. I think it's because they're not dying from a medical condition, or if they are, it's a medical condition that can't be rectified, right? So it's not medical care in that sense, right? As in they're going to
still,
try
if
and
you-
make you better.
But the sad thing is, if in California, if you wanted to open up a restaurant, you would have a mountain of paperwork to fill out to open up a restaurant, for instance.
For sure. Yeah,
Why
but-
not for the same for a health facility of any sort? That would cut down an awful lot of this fraud straight away.
Well, I believe that it would, but I think it's, again, they're not trying to save lives. They're trying to comfort people on their way out.
But I
Right.
understand that. But at the end of the day, there seems to be, when you have no regulation, you end up with this kind of scenario all the time.
Right.
If there's no oversight or no follow up or no paperwork to go with it, you'll end up with this scenario over and over again.
Well, and you're lucky that you're seated, because the base tax in the state of California, the state tax, is just over 13%. So 13 cents,
base.
13, roughly.
Right. Okay.
Unless you make very little money, right? Your base is about
Right.
13.3-ish, right? Which means that if you're making over $120,000 to $150,000 a year, you're paying 33% to Uncle Sugar. Like, the United States will take 33 to 36% of your ass, and then California's taking 13%, right?
I
So
think 50% of your wages are gone.
yes, facts. That's why people
On
have
tax.
CPAs, just taxes, right? Then on top of that, we
Oh,
have
wow.
sales tax, we have property tax. Some places have district taxes, like Melrose tax for schools. There's vectors, there's districts like fire districts and mosquito districts, mosquito abatement districts, right? And they each get a percentage. If you have a fire district, you got to pay for firefighters, right? Right. And then, and your sales tax is local, right? So sales tax in the city in which I live might be 1.5 cents, 1.5%, whatever, right? So then all the little things in my community, right? And on top of that, like our gas tax, we pay $1.29, well, between $1.18 and $1.19 per gallon of gas pumped, right? And I know you say, "Oh, boo-hoo," because ours is real bad too. Well, I get it. But understand in California, our 118 to 129 is far and away. I have relatives and friends who live in, say, Arkansas, they're not even up to $3, right? And I'm paying
Because
$6 at the pump.
Because the state tax on fuel is a lot lower. Okay,
Right. Well,
that
there's
makes
also
sense.
a processing problem. So California gets a boutique fuel, which is a summer blend and a winter blend, and it's processed in South Korea, China, and India, right? So California says they want to go green, but they're using these massive boats to bring these huge tanker boats to bring them over, and they burn the nastiest diesel ever. So
the funny thing is, I had to move away from the mic because I was laughing so much. But I've never heard of something so stupid in my entire life.
Right. Well, and so we can't get fuel from Texas. We can't use the local California fuel. We can't use pipeline fuel from Montana. We can't use the Latin.
Can I ask a very strange question?
Yeah, go ahead.
What fuel do you burn in your vehicle?
It's unleaded fuel. It's petrol.
Yeah, gasoline, I presume.
Yeah, gasoline. Well, some use diesel, and we have a lot of electric vehicles now too.
Yeah. So if you drive your gasoline engine over the border, say drive over the border into Texas and whatever, say you're going on a big road trip, will their gasoline work in your engine?
Every time.
And will it work? Say if you travel past there and you want to go on a mad trip, and you go as far as Florida, would the gasoline work there as well?
It would, in fact, if I were to drive to the state of Maine from Florida, everywhere on the East Coast, all of that fuel would work just fine in the vehicle.
So
yes.
Why, in the name of everything, do you have just a special winter and summer blend? Who, in the name of everything that is holy, came up with a stupid idea like that in California?
So it has to do with Chevron doctrine and allowing a state to have its own environmental protection agency. So California has a coastal commission.
But which governor signed that stupid thing into law?
Oh, Jesus. Jerry Brown, I think. Pretty sure it's Jerry Brown. Jesus. But it's insane. So the fuel in every other state works just fine in our vehicles in California. If we drive them other places, like we're to drive just over the border to Arizona, Nevada.
Look, I understand they're thinking about the environment. That's a wonderful idea. That's a wonderful idea on paper. But realistically, people still need to live and work and slowly change over to electric or slowly change over to whatever they want to drive. But this whole ridiculous thing with your fuel is absolutely stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Especially the fact it's coming over by, tanker that burns, as you were saying, the worst deals you could ever possibly imagine.
Right. So, and then here's another great one. So in the state of California, they're trying to pass a law that's going to be a mileage tax. So every mile you drive.
Oh, you sent me a video about that. Yeah.
Right. It hasn't gone into effect, but there's a problem with that, and it restricts your movement, and the government isn't supposed to be doing that. But
that'll be called economic suicide if they bring that in.
Well,
California.
So the registration,
everything that's going on right now with the rise in fuel costs and everything else across the globe, wouldn't that small bit of an extra burden on top of people would be destroyed or breaks?
Oh, no, it's not a small burden. It's not even close to a small burden.
What's it going to be? 50 cents a mile or?
Oh, no. It's 3 or 4 cents. But that means it'll all add up. But the problem is now, let's say I pay $250 to $500 in registering my vehicle, right? That means that I will have to pay because they'll check my odometer and they'll say, you drove X amount of miles, so you're paying 3 cents. And let's say I had a heavy driving year, right? I went 25,000 miles. That's a lot of money. That is disgusting, right? Yeah. And it also regulates where you can go. And they're saying they're not going to put like GPS in our cars, but the thing is they're electronic. Like if they want to, they
don't have to track it. As you said, at the start of the year, they'll write down how many miles on the clock. At the end of the year, they'll write down how many miles on the clock and just take both numbers together. That's what you're going to be charged.
Right. But the thing is that they'll want to have a monitoring system. They're going to want to have a monitoring system.
I don't think they'll go that far, but I personally think it's the stupidest tax could ever, especially for commercial vehicles, because commercial companies are going to obviously pass on those costs to their customers.
Oh, for sure.
Pass on to,
for sure.
To the people going to you'll have if you think the cost of living is bad right now, wait 6 months after that tax comes in. Just wait 6 months.
Well, 1 year, because they'll start it, and then at the end of when that starts, let's say it's January the 1st of 2027.
Well, companies will bring in companies will offset it a lot sooner than the 12-month mark. They
Oh,
usually wait
yeah,
6
oh, for
months.
sure, for sure. Yeah, they will, but it won't.
The
It won't
reason
be
6 months is usually the way accountants work.
right. Well, it
Yeah.
won't be until the 1 year mark where they actually start taking that tax. But
Yeah,
the
they'll
thing
start
is,
at the end of the second, going into the third quarter, where they'll start passing on to customers
right,
just
but
to offset it themselves.
they're going to want a monitoring system for it, just to, in quotes, ensure that they get their money. But a lot of this was that big green push, right? So what happened is we have a bunch of Teslas and other electric vehicles that are about now. So that means that the gas tax isn't capturing as much of the funds like it used to, because they're like, you better go green and get you an electric vehicle. So a lot of people did. So now places like
Yeah.
SMUD and PG&E are making a gang of money off it, and the state's not seeing that because that power is provided by a third party that isn't controlled by a government agency necessarily,
Yeah,
which means they're also not
Yeah, they
capturing
were trying to
those
do
funds.
that. They were trying to do a big push over here. They still are, but they're kind of rolling out a bit slow. It's going very slow, I'll be honest.
The
People
problem
changing over
is
to electric.
everything we do is based on dinosaur juice. All of it. Even
Yes.
the green stuff, you have to move those things, the windmills and all that. You have to move all
the
that
solar
stuff.
panels. Yeah, everything
Right.
is still. Yeah, we still haven't gone to the stage where we're fusing energy. Let's put it that way. But we're definitely gone after the point here about Medicare fraud. You know?
Right. Well, and the other one
Yeah.
is we just need to go nuclear. If we just go nuclear, we'll be fine. That will
Yeah.
definitely cover the gap, and it's a whole lot safer than it used to be. But we will get back to Mr. Yamaguchi now that you've brought it up. Here we go.
I share it. I have the frustration.
And why it's costing so much more than money.
It makes me lose faith in the system that is built to protect us. Oh, you got him.
You know what that is? You know what game that is?
Yeah, tennis,
No, that's pickleball.
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 We just call it. It just looks like tennis to me, but
Well,
okay,
well,
pickleball. Okay.
No, it's pickleball. And
Is that one of
pickleball.
those American sports you just made up?
Well, so it's a hard plastic ball, right?
Okay.
Right. And yeah,
Right.
so you can see that it doesn't quite look like a tennis court, right? So,
Right,
but yeah. And she doesn't look like she's on hospice, bud.
Yeah.
She doesn't.
Oh wow.
If you could play pickleball with old Adam Yamaguchi and those,
Yeah.
cool white tennies
Wow.
there, his trainers.
Yeah, she looks quite healthy to me. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Nice
sure.
healthy lady. Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
Let's see how this little interview goes.
Point. Woo! That was great. Let's do it again.
Lynn, you are old and in hospice, so I would be a little bit more proud about my accomplishments, but
69-year-old Dr. Lynn Ianni just ran me up and down the pickleball court. But 2 years ago, she was, according to Medicare records, dying in hospice care.
I was in treatment as physical therapy, simply because I had had kind of an injury on the pickleball court. The administrator at the office was like, they're not going to pay any of your claims. And I was shocked. They said, you're in hospice. And I said, what? What are you talking about? Are you kidding me? Do I look like I'm in hospice? She goes, no, I know you.
Ianni's Medicare number had been stolen and used by a company to fraudulently enroll her in hospice care, which she
Wow.
obviously didn't need.
Yeah, pretty obviously, right? So again, when I told you
Wow.
they steal the numbers, that's how they do it, right? But a lot of times it's a double scam, right? So they'll go to the family and go, hey, we're going to use this number, and then we're going to make whatever. Let's say we make 10 grand. We'll give you $2,500. You just don't say nothing, right? So the scam expands.
Wow.
And do you think somebody who's getting a kickback is going to want to talk about that? No, they're not, because then they're complicit along with the hospice
Okay.
agency that lied.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, we call that
That's
not
crazy.
good. We call those bad
No.
faith actors. And then you tempt people
Yeah.
with money, and they're like, well, there's no harm because, no, there is a harm because there's constituents that
But
pay
it
taxes.
still goes back to the point of there's little or no checks or balances in this system. It seems to be like the Wild West.
Well,
somewhere,
California is
whatever
the
reason.
West Coast. So, yeah, but it's also happening in East
all
on the
over the
Eastern
place.
Seaboard as well,
But
too.
as I said, it seems to be no follow-up or anyone with common sense looking into any of these cases.
Right. Well, so here's the funny one. So as soon as Nick Shirley puts this thing out, Gavin Newsom posted all kinds of wild stuff with him, with cameras on him, and like they were trying to pretend that he was into young people in a really bad way, as opposed to saying, "Hey, Nick, I really appreciate you showing us this. We'll go ahead and get this to the state AG, and we will start cracking down." Like That should have been a huge thank you from the state of California. And instead, they besmirched his character for no good reason, right? And I understand he might have called some people after hours and nobody answered. Like, I get that. The numbers might have been padded a little bit. But if you look at that one building that's got 89, and then Nick Shirley went to another place that was like an old school hotel that got converted into a ton of little hospice offices. Yeah, he had some run-ins with those folks, right?
But what I'm trying to say is, I'm a great believer if you don't punch down. Especially the governor should not have punched down. That's what it looked like to me when he's making those statements about that young man.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's offsetting the, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you caught me being bad.
I'll pass this information on to the state attorney general and we'll investigate. That should have been the end of the statement.
Right.
That's it.
Well,
don't engage.
We don't have state troopers per se. We have the California Highway Patrol, and they have pretty major jurisdiction. But I don't know what agency would be in charge of that investigation. Maybe IA, maybe IG, maybe the IG.
It's federal funds, isn't it? For the most part, a lot of it.
Right, but it's managed by state agencies because in California, at least because of Medi-Cal.
I presume if federal funds are being
federal funds are being funneled through the state to these agencies. Yes, so there's a problem. There's a problem with the funnel.
But the FBI would definitely have jurisdiction there, wouldn't they? For
sure, they would have some jurisdiction in it. But I think California should make every effort to clean up their own house, and then in conjunction with the FBI. Except California and the federal government we're not really talking friendly right now. Gavin Newsom's going to be making a run for president, and he thinks he's doing great, and he thinks he's amazing, and he's got a great hairdo, and good cut there. But the problem is,
as I said to you before many times, he definitely has ideas above his station is the best word I could describe that.
Right. Well, when you're the governor of the largest state, like in the country, and you manage a budget that big, and you have failed to manage that budget to the tune of at a minimum $250 billion, like that's not a good resume. Like I don't want that dude in charge of a donut shop, much less my state or country.
But I don't think, how can I put it nicely? He'll go for it, but he has a snowball chance of actually succeeding. Well,
it depends who the Democrats.
Maybe not.
It depends who else the Democrats have running, right? Maybe Pocahontas is in there, right? Elizabeth Warren, Pritzker. There's a lot of folks that could make the run, right? But I think that the Republicans are probably going to be a little strong in this next one, especially if they put up Gavin Newsom, because the second choice behind Gavin Newsom is AOC. Now, I don't think Ocasio-Cortez is a great choice either. From bartender to Congress.
And is there anyone else in the Democratic Party do you think will go first?
I think Bernie might be a little bit too old at this point.
Bernie will always throw his hat in the ring. We all know that. Don't get me wrong. Poor old Bernie is a bit long with the two, but he will throw his hat in the ring. He won't have a snowball chance in hell either of getting a nomination, but he'll throw his hat in the ring as well.
Right. All right, let's get back to this thing.
That man Ianni had no coverage and no easy way of getting unenrolled from hospice.
Obviously, this was a major hassle. Lots of phone calls, lots of paperwork. What were the medical consequences?
I was terrified. I mean, something can happen. That's why you have health insurance of any kind. And just to think you're literally without coverage because of some ridiculous, fraudulent thing.
My name is Adam.
So what they do is they chop you off from your medical insurance while you're going through a hospice situation. So let's say you have some HMO or PPO, like that stops while you're in the process of dying.
Well,
functionally, right?
Yes, obviously your health insurance would kind of pause them because if you're in hospice, you don't really need. Unfortunately, you don't need much health insurance.
No, because they're not trying to make you better. They're like, we're just going to let you go. We're going to let you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then she runs into an issue where she's trying to get coverage just for physical therapy because of a pickleball injury. She just can't get it because they're like, well, you're on hospice. She's like, I'm on the phone with you and I'm telling you that's not the way it is. And then she's got to fill out a bunch of forms and stuff because somebody stole her number. That's not good. You're right. The checks and balances are missing. All right. Let's see what Mr. Yamaguchi has to say to Hospice Incorporated here.
Yamaguchi, I'm with CBS News.
A CBS News investigation found an industry ripe for fraud, especially in California. Companies accused of overbilling, real patients denied care, and it's costing hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars. The hospice Ianni was fraudulently enrolled in is called Fortuna. When we called, no one answered.
The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time.
The state of California increased monitoring
Wow.
of the hospice industry 4 years ago, identifying the hallmarks of fraud. Fortuna has 2 of them, and it's hardly alone. CBS News analyzed every hospice licensed in LA County, more than 1,700, and checked for the same warning signs the state used, like multiple hospices.
So that's for 13 million people. They have 1,773 hospices, and
Okay.
it's not just indicators of fraud. Like, you know, the fraud is there. It has to be. Right.
Yeah, but obviously for legal reasons, he's saying potential fraud just to cover.
You're right. Well, because he hasn't uncovered something, or if he uncovered something and handed it to the
Yeah,
police.
you still have to kind of say,
Yeah.
there appears to be fraud. You have to be really careful. Not only will they would kind of sue you, but you'll open yourself up to liability.
Right. Well, yeah. When it's obvious, but you can't say there is fraud.
It's obvious.
Right.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
All right.
Packed into one building, or caregivers whose patients, supposedly at death's door, are discharged alive.
And that's the funny one, right? Like, they go into hospice, and a massive percentages of them come out just fine on the other side. That's not what that care is for. So,
well, we used to call that as the miracle of Lourdes. Yeah.
3 years after the state crackdown, which included a moratorium on new hospice licenses, our investigation found more than 40% of agencies still show at least 3 of these state-defined indicators of potential fraud.
So Victory Boulevard seems to be a hotbed of
Hospice Row.
You can't throw a rock without hitting a hospice.
Sheila Clark, a hospice patient advocate, took us to what she described as the ground zero for hospice fraud, a 3-mile stretch of Los Angeles that's home to nearly 500 hospice company offices.
There's one hospice here that hits all 6 of California's red flags of possible fraud.
Well, there's
Says
no
it's a
hospice there.
Legal office.
Yeah.
With a ton of mail just
Yeah,
sitting
look
there.
at this.
This agency, VML, hit every fraud indicator in our analysis and billed Medicare roughly $49,000 per patient, about 3.5 times the national average.
They need their curative treatment. They need their they need to be taken care of. They need to know that they can get what they need when they need it, not hit a roadblock because somebody's scammed them.
The number you dialed is not in service.
Clark tells us when offices like these close abruptly, it's real patients in desperate need who pay the price.
How does that make you feel as somebody who deals with patients who need this?
Sad, really sad, because I talk to them every day. I'm sorry, I can't.
I wonder.
So yeah, palliative care, when it is abused like that, is horrific, right? Because those who may need it can't get it because there's other people.
That's what that lady was saying there, because she's an advocate for them. She says straight out that it will affects everyone.
Right, because
and
those that need it can't get it.
This reporter found it so easily.
Oh yeah,
that one company found. Yeah,
super fast. Yeah, Nick Shirley had a couple people that he was bopping around with in Oakland and in LA County, near Pasadena, where that stuff's going on real bad. So here we go.
How they can go for a full year and still not have their license revoked? Is that a systemic failure?
We need to be responsive to the red flags and react to them, not just count them, but do something, take action. Our main lane is the accountability side, the criminal investigations, civil investigations. That's after the damage is done, though, unfortunately.
State Attorney General Rob Bonta says his office has brought hospice fraud criminal cases against 109 defendants and about 24 civil cases. What would you?
That's the guy that keeps trying to take our Second Amendment rights. He's being sued by a lot of people over that stuff. Old Bonta.
Okay.
Right. So it'll be like State of California versus Bonta, or it'll be like individual versus Bonta, and that's in his role. Right.
Okay.
If Newsom isn't listed, then the state AG will be listed.
But overall, he's the guy who prosecutes any kind of fraud in this sector, is he?
From the top, yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. That's the man.
Say to citizens who are throwing up their hands and saying, "How long is this going to persist? Is my government doing anything to protect my taxpayer dollars?"
Again, I share it. I have the frustration. So to the citizens that remain frustrated, I understand. I share your frustration. Please know that we have increased our efforts. We're working overtime on prevention and on accountability, and we will continue until hospice fraud in California is rooted out.
So the problem I have with that is he didn't say some of our cures are going to be, I don't know, these companies have to be transparent. Like, we want full transparency on hospice.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, proper
we're
licensing, proper checks and balances, everything.
what he said was, man, we're working real hard to solve this. We're putting in all that effort, right? We're going to put some elbow grease on that. We're going to get her done. You know, like, it just feels like words of affirmation as opposed to, we have things of evidentiary value that will lead to criminal investigations, and here's what we're doing.
It's all this empty double talk, if I was being honest with you. That's what it sounds like to me.
That dude sounded like a sleazy politician right there a little bit. Like, we're doing the best that we can do.
Yeah. If a reporter can find it that easily, surely with him, with all his resources in his office,
oh yeah,
can do it as well.
He has access. He's got billions in assets to bring to head to do something about it.
Yeah, there's plenty of agencies under his umbrella that he could surely,
for sure,
bring to bear there.
Right, just the state AG's office can go out there with their investigators and do something about it. Like, they could have gone down there the next day and started rooting it out. Like, hey, get 10 of your boys together, or your girls, get the folks together, all the people with the badges and the guns, and start pulling these mugs. Like, they got to go. They got to go now. Like, we have just been exposed for almost half a $500 billion in fraud. That's insane. $430 billion. Like, it just makes me sick in my stomach. I pay taxes in this state. I'm getting used up bad. All right, we got about a minute left on this.
At least you'll have plenty of hospice out there.
Of all kinds of options, right?
Yeah, loads of options in healthcare wise.
Oh man, I hope I don't need that for like 40 years. All right, here we go.
CBS News reached out to the almost 60 hospices that have 5 or more flags. Many numbers were disconnected or went straight to voicemail. Representatives at some others denied any fraud and said they run legitimate hospices with real patients. Back in Van Nuys, we tried the hospice right next door to VML. We knocked, then called during the posted business hours.
You can't leave a message because the person you call has a voicemail box that hasn't been set up yet.
Wow.
Bye.
We couldn't reach anyone, and we'd soon realize these operations may be connected, part of what advocates describe as a web of hospice agencies that come and go, but continue submitting a steady stream of bills to taxpayers, whether the patients are dying or, like Ayani, are still out playing pickleball.
Gotta get your pickleball on. I might have to switch to pickleball because what I'm doing now isn't working. So that looks kind of fun though. Little plastic ball playing around.
But apparently it can make you come back from the hospice.
Or from the dead, right? So
yeah, I was trying to say that.
So that was Adam Yamaguchi from CBS News covering something that Nick Shirley had covered. I think we'll split this out from here and we'll get to a little bit of the Minnesota thing. And we'll be right back with that. All right, Patrick, we are back. And this is from Mississippi Today by Anna Wolf, a Pulitzer Prize-winning nonprofit news organization. So the feds are asking Mississippi to pay back $101 million in misspent welfare. So this letter represents the first time since the welfare scandal broke in 2020 that HHS has confirmed rules were broken when Mississippi spent welfare money on things such as building a volleyball stadium and $1 million public speaking contract with a celebrity athlete. Just do whatever you want to do with the money, even though it's earmarked for something else, right?
A volleyball and celebrity, okay. So the reason why we're bringing up this article in particular is just to show that there's fraud, not just in blue states, but all over the United States. Seems to be very little checks and balances anywhere.
Right.
Just seems to be money thrown at every problem, but no follow-up.
From California to Mississippi, fraud in the USA. So start reading this thing. The Federal Welfare Agency is finally asking Mississippi for its money back, a long-anticipated next step in rectifying the state's squandering of millions of tax dollars meant to reduce poverty. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services sent a penalty notice to Mississippi in December. The agency determined the state must pay back nearly $101 million in welfare money it says officials misused during former Governor Phil Bryant's administration. So that's 2020 timeframe, right? So now they're finally saying, all right, here's your bill. You got to pay it. So.
Wow.
The letter represents the first time since the scandal broke in 2020 that HHS has confirmed rules were broken when Mississippi spent welfare money on things such as building a volleyball stadium and a $1 million public speaking contract with a celebrity athlete. HHS is a federal agency that oversees the $16.5 billion annual temporary assistance for needy families block grants to states. So the states say, we need some money. And the federal government says, send us the paperwork and we'll cut you a check. But there isn't, like you were saying before, a check and or balance.
No.
Yeah. Once the check hits, then the state's like, we're just going to do some
disappear.
Wild shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the homeless industrial complex. The state of California lost 23 or $24 billion. Where'd it go? $3 billion of that went to LA County. They can't find it. 2.5 to 3. Like, where'd it go? I don't know. How do you not know?
It just fell off. It just fell off the books.
It fell off the truck. It fell off the back of the truck. See, we put it into the straps, right? But they were talking about that. It's like, how do you lose that, right? So if there isn't any transparency, then all those transactions are hidden from the public, but you're spending our money. Zero accountability is a problem, right?
Big time.
So the Mississippi Department of Human Services, which administers the federal funds for the state and is still suing dozens of defendants over the misspending in ongoing civil litigation, has disputed the amount. The welfare scandal took down a former state agency director, 2 nonprofit directors, and a few others who pleaded guilty to federal crimes, including fraud and bribery. They are still awaiting sentencing for the roles in the scheme, which involved diverting money from the poor to pet projects of their friends, family, and famous athletes. Come on. Come on now.
Wow.
Bad faith actors. But the penalty notice seeks administrative relief separate from criminal proceedings, signaling the next stage of the federal government's response to the scandal. So I think they're going to try and find the money civilly. And if they can't get their money back and give them the slap on the hand, then somebody's going to go to the federal pen, right? So
yeah, but how often has that actually genuinely happened? Because I know there was a guy who, can't think of his name, but he got 100 million. He defrauded 100 million out of Medicare at that time through various schemes, and he got released. You could say early. He got prosecuted, but he got pardoned as well. So there has to be a lot more kind of mandatory sentences to cut down an awful lot of this, wouldn't it?
Well, it would, but the thing is, like, the money's already lost. It's already been defrauded. Now they're like, well, already you got us. Well, right?
Yes, but if there's 20 years attached to each one of those crimes, you'd be surprised how that would cut down things quite quickly.
They might want to think twice about it, right? The federal government used a combination of findings from the Office of State Auditor's 2019 Annual Audit of Federal Funds, released May 19, 2020, and a forensic audit commissioned by the State Welfare Agency, released October 2021, to arrive at a total penalty of just over 100 million American petro confetti dollars. The Office of Family Assistance inside HHS's Administration for Children and Families is handling the matter for the federal government. In response, Mississippi Department of Human Services Director Bob Anderson said he and the agency appreciate the gravity of the suggested penalty, but asked for additional time to respond. If somebody came to my house and asked for a check like that, I'd be like, can I have a minute? Give me a minute, would you? So, I'm going to have to digest that. That's a lot. That's really a lot, you know?
It's a lot of money, but as I was saying, there should be a lot more accountability, not just finding where the money went, but proper prosecutions with no chance of appeal or pardon attached to it as well. That would really cut down on the healthcare fraud across the board.
Right. Well, it doesn't.
A lot of crime as well.
We can't do it without appeal, right? Then that destroys.
Yeah, but there shouldn't be an option either of presidential pardons, where guys who do commit these crimes get prosecuted but get pardoned because their body gets in office.
Right.
That option should be taken off the board across all crimes. The whole presidential pardon thing.
The problem is it's a part of Article 2 of the Constitution. So it would mean either a convention of states or there'd have to be an amendment to the Constitution that indicated that was the case. And I don't know that that's ever going to happen with that.
Oh no, it will never happen, but it would be nice if it did happen. It would cut down an awful lot of this Medicare fraud and so on. If a lot of these guys realize that even if their buddy gets in office, no amount of money will get me out of it.
The president or the governor can't just snap his fingers or her fingers and say, you're free. It don't work like that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That would cut down an awful lot.
For our ongoing discovery efforts, we have been attempting to validate the allowability or misuse of large portions of the funds, Anderson wrote in February's letter. Thus, it is the position of the agency that the amount of penalty proposed by OFA is based on insufficient information and disputed by the agency. The audits categorized misuse in several ways. Of the total, 101 million, 12.5 million was deemed fraud, waste, or abuse, primarily because of conflicts of interest or favoritism by former Mississippi Department of Human Services Director John Davis. Most of the penalty instead consists of unallowable purchases. This is spending that either did not comply with federal regulations or did not come with proper documentation. The forensic audit notably lacked records to account for 40 million in TANF spending by Mississippi Community Education Center, the nonprofit at the center of the most attention-grabbing purchases, lumping the entire expenditure as a questioned cost. Obviously.
Question cost. Okay.
We've got a question about the buildings that you bought.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a few questions is the word I would use.
So,
wow.
Some purchases that make up the overarching welfare scandal figure have been legal, but 5 years later, the state officials are still seeking documentation to parse out that and potentially reduce the penalty. So
5 years later.
It was cool 5 years ago. No, man, it was cool.
Oh my God.
Apparently that's not cool.
No, it's not. Wow.
So Ms. Ann Wolf with Mississippi Today requested the penalty letter in response, as well as any other follow-up communications from the state welfare agency, but was told any additional correspondence was exempt due to attorney-client privilege. So what they're saying is even though your tax dollars were wasted and we found a lot of fraud and abuse, well, you can't see that because we're not going to make it transparent. That seems a little shaky.
Well, there's probably it depends if it's part of an ongoing case. I know over here there's certain parts that can't be released to the public.
Right.
Even though it should be, but it can't be because it would jeopardize the overall case. If that makes sense to people.
Right.
So I don't think it's a cover-up. I just think it's probably
there might be
part of a legal case.
Right. There might be a criminal investigation, and all these things are wrapped up in a criminal investigation. So
yeah.
We can't speak to ongoing negotiations in a legal matter, said agency spokesperson Mark Jones. The Mississippi Attorney General's office similarly would not comment. A spokesperson for the governor's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment from Mississippi Today. The notice from HHS was more than 4 years in the making, achieved right at the close of the Biden administration. Many of the top-level officials of the Office of Family Assistance are no longer with the agency after Donald Trump took office in January. Funny enough. Federal welfare.
No, a lot of them actually lost their job. There was a big purge.
Yes.
When he took over. So a lot of people were purged from all these offices. But the problem is he didn't have a plan to put people into those jobs afterwards. He just purged everyone. And yeah, it's causing a bit of a backlog in cases at the moment. Across the states.
Yeah, based on some of the releases of personnel that he did. So the notice from HHS was more than 4 years in the making, achieved right. Okay, we did that already. Federal welfare officials have been holding off on making a request of repayment until they secured more information or until getting clearance from the U.S. Department of Justice, which was conducting a parallel criminal investigation. Right. So there's several ongoing investigations. So
yeah. So that's the problem when there's a lot of these cases, there's a lot of stuff a lot of moving parts, not just in the state, but federally as well. There's a lot of parallel investigations. But now that there's a bit of a shortage of staff, it might slow down an awful lot of these cases, unfortunately.
Possibility. Absolutely a possibility. So, all right. That is the fun from Ms. Amy Wolf over there at Mississippi Today. So you can see from California to Mississippi and probably everywhere in between, it ain't looking good for fraud out here in the U.S. of A. So
no, definitely not.
All right, Patrick, got anything else for the good of the people?
No, as I was saying, a lot of this would be cut down if there was common sense laws put into place, proper checks and balances.
So you meant to say yes. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's just down to just everyone is just throwing money at the problem with no follow-up. Like hospice care is a great idea, but there should be proper licenses and checks and balances in place to manage those funds.
Right, and the other one were the childcare ones, which were even scarier. There were
the childcare ones were interesting. That even Nick Shirley even used a lot of Google Maps. And when he went to these houses, they're apparently having 50 or 60 kids inside a house.
Right. Well, I think the biggest
Doesn't
one he
make
found
physical
was
sense.
14. There were 14 kids in one residence, and only one person
Yes.
was home at the house, and there was no children. But the state of California is paying for 14 children to be watched in that house, a very small house, mind you. Right? There's no way. Or there's like 6 or 7 kids in a 1-bedroom apartment that are supposed to be in a child care situation. You're like, you're crazy.
Common sense and Google Maps would point this out to you very quickly. You know, common sense checks and balances. There should be a lot more investigators as well in a lot of these offices looking at all this.
All right, for Patrick McCallum, I am Alex Johansson. We are the A&P Gents. Like the like, ring the bell, subscribe, and help us beat the algorithm. We are